You've finally arrived at your turning point, that sacred threshold where everything begins to shift in your life. Listen closely. There's a reason you're here, right now, hearing these words. The universe has a mysterious way of placing mirrors in front of us, but it only does so when we're truly ready to see what's been waiting on the other side, to witness the reflection that reveals who we're becoming. You wake up one day, and your world looks exactly the same. But it doesn't feel the same. The people, the places, the routines, they're all still there. But they no longer hold you the way they used to. Something's off, something's different, and no one around you can quite see it. But you can't unfeel it. That's not confusion. That's transition. That subtle tension in your chest, that fog behind your thoughts, that sudden desire to break the rules you created for yourself years ago. It's not a crisis. It's an invitation. The universe doesn't always knock on your door with clarity. Sometimes it arrives as a whisper behind your thoughts, a feeling you can't name, a restlessness that doesn't make sense until it does. You've felt it lately, haven't you? Like there's a version of you that's already moving, already changing, already evolving, and you're barely keeping up. You try to ignore it, to reason it away, to distract yourself with logic and schedules. But in the quiet, it grows louder, not in sound, in presence, in weight, in pull. And you know deep down that something has already begun. This is not just emotional turbulence. This is a quantum transition, a recalibration of timelines. The field around you, the very fabric of possibility, has started to shift. Your frequency is no longer a match for what you used to call normal. And because of that, your current reality is beginning to dissolve, not with violence, but with silence. It's not falling apart, it's letting go. And what you're feeling right now is the space between. This space is sacred. It's the void, the womb of new realities, the place where your next self begins to take form. But here's the trap. Most people run from the void. They label it as stuck. They panic in the silence. They try to fix what isn't broken just because it isn't comfortable, but not you. You're here. You're listening, which means part of you already knows. This isn't the end. This is the initiation. The reason you feel disconnected from your routines is because they were built for a version of you that no longer exists. The rituals, the relationships, the responsibilities, they were aligned with who you were, not with who you're becoming. And that version of you is beginning to echo louder, not with demands, but with resonance, with a frequency that says, remember, you don't need a breakdown to change. You don't need a disaster. You only need to be still enough to hear what's already shifting. And that's what makes this moment so powerful. Not that something is about to happen, but that something already has. The change isn't coming. It's here. You're not waiting for your life to begin. You're standing in the exact second it already did. But the old reality won't let go without a whisper. It will try to pull you back with comfort. It will seduce you with familiarity. It will remind you of everything you used to value, everything that once made you feel safe, and now makes you feel trapped. That's not weakness. That's your system recalibrating. Your nervous system is detoxing from a lifetime of survival habits. Let it. Breathe through it. Observe it. But don't mistake it for truth. Because here's what the mind won't tell you. Discomfort is data. It means your energy is moving faster than your circumstances. It means the field is stretching. It means your higher self has already said yes, and your body is catching up. And when that happens, the world around you might not shift immediately. But you will. And that's where it all begins. You see, we've been conditioned to believe that change has to come with fireworks, with big signs, with perfect timing. But in quantum reality, the greatest shifts are quiet. They arrive when you're washing dishes, driving to work, sitting in silence wondering why your chest feels tight and your dreams feel close but far at the same time. That's not random. That's a signal. That's alignment forming in the unseen. And if you've been asking for a sign, this is it. Not because these words are magic, but because your readiness is. You wouldn't even be here, reading this, feeling this, recognizing this, if you weren't already inside the transformation. This isn't the beginning of your shift. This is the recognition of it. And recognition is how energy collapses into form. The observer effect in quantum mechanics teaches us that reality responds to awareness. So when you become aware that you are in transition, the transition accelerates. So here's what I want you to know. You're not lost. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're expanding. You're stepping out of the timeline you've outgrown and into the one that's been waiting for you to notice it. That version of you, they're already alive in the field. They've been whispering through your discomfort, nudging you through your boredom, inviting you through your fatigue. And now you're listening. Now you're seeing. Now you're remembering. In the next few minutes, we'll explore why the people around you might not understand what you're feeling, and why that's not a mistake but a confirmation. Because when you stop resonating with your old reality, it doesn't mean you're losing your place. It means you're being repositioned. One of the most painful yet profound parts of awakening is the moment you realize the people around you might not come with you, not because they're wrong, not because they're bad, but because they're not vibrating at the same frequency you're starting to remember. And that realization doesn't just create space, it creates grief. A quiet mourning for the version of you who fit in, who blended, who was easy to explain. But the truth is, that version was never the whole story. You weren't born to be understood. You were born to become. And becoming requires dissonance. It requires the discomfort of outgrowing what once made perfect sense. That friend who no longer gets you. That job that used to feel fulfilling. That life path that once seemed clear and now feels hollow. These aren't losses. They're reflections. They're the energetic evidence that your internal frequency has shifted. And because of that, what you attract, what you tolerate, what you magnetize, it all begins to recalibrate. In the language of quantum mechanics, this is coherence versus decoherence. When your internal signal becomes too dissonant from your environment, the field begins to break alignment with your current reality. You feel this as boredom, fatigue, frustration, even loneliness. But it's not punishment. It's resonance making space for what truly matches you now. And it's in this phase, the space between who you were and who you're becoming, that the universe will often test your courage. Not through chaos, but through silence. People will say, "You've changed." They'll ask, "What's wrong?" They'll worry about you, not because something's broken, but because your transformation threatens their stability. And here's the part no one prepares you for. Sometimes, your shift will activate their fear. Not because you meant to, but because when one person in a system starts to grow, the whole system feels it. Your evolution becomes a mirror, and not everyone is ready to see what they've been avoiding in themselves. So what do? You breathe, you ground, you listen, and you don't shrink. You don't apologize for your evolution. You don't explain away your expansion. You learn to walk through the valley of invisibility with grace, knowing that your alignment is not up for debate. You're not here to be easily categorized. You're here to be a frequency, a vibration, a living, breathing example of what happens when someone chooses truth over comfort, alignment over approval, inner resonance over external validation. And yes, that path is quieter, at times lonelier. But it's also more magnetic, because once you become a vibrational match to your higher timeline, the field begins to collapse coincidences into synchronicities. The right people, the right conversations, the unexpected openings. They don't arrive before your shift, they arrive because of it. The irony is this: as you grow, you may feel more invisible to your old world, and more visible to your real one. The one that was always waiting for you to show up as your actual self. Not the curated version, not the masked version, but the version that doesn't need to explain why they're drawn to silence, to depth, to expansion. That version is already forming, and it's drawing to itself a new ecosystem, one built on resonance, not reputation. Here's what most people don't understand about quantum change. It doesn't start with outer transformation. It starts with a frequency split. Your consciousness begins to vibrate at a new rate, and your old reality can no longer sustain itself. This is why relationships fade, why passions shift, why you can no longer pretend things feel good when they don't. The mismatch becomes unbearable. Because your soul knows what it used to tolerate was survival, not alignment. You're not crazy, you're not dramatic. You're just awakening to what your system has always known, but what your mind had to forget to fit in. And now, it's time to remember. You don't need everyone to understand. You need to understand yourself. You need to honor the quiet knowing that's been rising through your discomfort. The part of you that says, I'm not lost. I'm just shedding. This is your permission, not from me but from the field, to let go of the need to be understood, to walk your path with reverence, even if no one claps, to trust that your alignment is creating ripples that others may not see yet, but that will shape their world in ways they'll feel when they're ready. You're not here to be what makes sense. You're here to be what resonates. And in the next few minutes, we'll revisit the story of your past, not as a weight to carry, but as a map of every frequency that brought you to this shift. Because when you see your past through quantum eyes, you'll realize nothing was wasted, and everything was preparing you for this precise sacred now. There's a moment in your spiritual evolution when you stop looking at your past with resentment and start seeing it as raw material. That shift alone changes everything, because when you begin to understand that nothing you went through was wasted, you stop trying to escape your story and begin to integrate it. The scars, the confusion, the mistakes you thought ruined everything, they weren't accidents. They were initiations. They didn't happen to break you. They happened to shape you. The quantum field doesn't operate on morality. It doesn't reward or punish, it simply mirrors. And what you labeled as a failure, the field read as contrast, as calibration, as momentum in disguise. So when you revisit your past with awakened eyes, you stop seeing a graveyard of wrong turns and start seeing a treasure map, a sacred blueprint of every energetic thread that led you to this moment. And let's be honest, some of those threads felt unbearable. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the years of spinning your wheels, the jobs that drained you, the relationships that shrank you, the silence you had to sit through when no one believed in your dreams. All of it was preparing your frequency. Because when you begin to operate on a quantum level, you realize that alignment isn't about circumstances. It's about vibration. And sometimes, the fastest way to stabilize a higher frequency is to burn through every lower one. Not because you needed to suffer, but because the old self had to be witnessed, fully, before it could be released. Think of your past not as a collection of moments, but as training. Every version of you that doubted, settled, avoided, or ran was practicing contrast, practicing misalignment, so that when alignment finally clicked, you would recognize it instantly, without hesitation, without self-sabotage, with the depth of someone who's earned their clarity through fire. This is why the universe doesn't rush, because it's not trying to deliver outcomes, it's helping you become the person who can hold them. And that becoming, it required everything, every delay, every detour, every "why is this happening to me" moment was actually a portal to "now I understand." And even if you're not there yet, even if you still carry shame about the choices you made or the time you think you've lost, I want you to hear this. Nothing is wasted. Not a second, not a season, not a breakdown, especially not the breakdown. Because in quantum terms, breakdown is just deconstruction of incoherence, the unraveling of everything that no longer matches your true frequency. And once that unraveling happens, even if it looks like your life is falling apart, what's really happening is that your old vibrational scaffolding is collapsing to make room for a life that's not built on survival, but on sovereignty. You're not broken. You're remembering. You're not behind. You're being synchronized. And when you start to look at your past through this lens, you'll realize the timeline you thought was lost was never off track. It was spiraling,